Hi there, my name's Tom, and this is going to be another knife sharpening video. I recently purchased a Leatherman Sidekick, and my previous video was how to take care of a serrated knife and why it's complicated and why serrated knives are sometimes, a problem and why knife people dislike them. And that's mostly because, surprise, they have a lot of extra steps in sharpening. So, for your emergency bag, because that's what I really want to focus on with a lot of my multi-tool videos, you need to come up with some options on sharpening. Here's the blade on my Leatherman Sidekick. I'm not feeling a burr on it, so I'm pretty happy with that. It has a very slight recurve here. That's cool. To my eye, the bevel for the blade actually appears wider on this side than it does on this side. So, hey, it's roughly half the cost of the Leatherman Wave Plus, so there's going to be some issues. So option one that you can put in your emergency bag that takes a lot of frustration out of knife sharpening is a Lansky turn box sharpener. And it's going to take up some space, but there is convenience to using it. You've got a 20-degree angle and you have a 25-degree angle. You could use either depending on what best goes with your blade and what you want. And you have your coarse ceramic sticks, and you have your fine ceramic sticks. Obviously, you can see I've used these. Now, here's a piece of scrap leather, and we'll get to why I have that in a minute, but okay. Now, I was able to successfully cut this leather using this knife, so the edge out of the box is pretty okay. It's not like a razor blade, but it's pretty okay. So, I'm going to dull this up for a second. You shouldn't do that to your knives. Okay, now we're just going to assume that that's dull. And it probably isn't going to cut the leather nearly as easily as before. I mean, it still cuts it a little bit, but it doesn't like doing it. Okay, so I'm going to assume that this is a less aggressive bevel, and I'm going to put my use the 25-degree holes, and I will make alternating passes down these sticks . And as I do this, I'm trying to keep my blade perfectly plumb to the ground, straight up and down, so that its blade is grinding at that 25-degree angle that I want. Yes, it is sharper now. I am then going to swap over to my fine ceramic sticks, again using the 25-degree holes. And I'm going to make a bunch of passes, alternating left and right. Yeah, I like that. But I'm not ready to cut my leather yet. Sorry, I misplaced my polishing compound. So I'm going to take this polishing compound, and just on this tiny square of leather I cut off before, I'm going to apply it to the rough side. Not that this is especially rough, and there's a reason I'm just using such a tiny piece of leather, which we'll get to in a minute. But I can use that, and I can just polish my blade because when you grind the edge on it, you're putting a burr on the end, and that's why you start with a coarse grind, and then you do a fine grind, and then you do a polish. Okay, now let's just try this again. Another thing to notice, I had a reasonably straight 90-degree cut that first time with the not dulled blade, and you'll notice with the dulled blade that is definitely not, I definitely was unable to maintain a 90-degree cut. So let's see if I can do that this time. Well, I had a little bit of a curve at the end, but it sliced through pretty okay. But that just tells me I can do some more refinement work. So why did I just take this square, this tiny little square, instead of using the long piece to polish? Simple. Because I can use this in my emergency kit as well. Put it in a little plastic bag. What are my other options there? Let's say I don't want to use this thing. As convenient as it is, it takes up a lot of space. Well, there's a couple other options available to you. Number one is get yourself a pocket stone. This one comes from Smith's. It has a coarse side and a fine side. Fine. And it's fine enough, but you're definitely going to want to polish it. You're definitely going to want that polish at the end to help take down that coarse burr. The other downside is you have to soak this for about 5 to 10 minutes just to protect your stone and make sure the metal doesn't really load up into it as you sharpen, hence why it's sitting in this bucket. Now, my other options on pocket stones, these are from a company called Dan's. They're labeled soft Arkansas and hard Arkansas. These are Arkansas stones. Normally when you sharpen with these, you want to use oil, not water. Unfortunately, you know, that's not realistic with a pocket stone. You're holding the blade in your hand and you don't need your hands oily. So water is good enough for these. But because they're not manufactured, they're not like bonded aluminum oxide, you do want to keep them, you know, in their protective pouches because stones will chip, and they're labeled so you don't confuse your soft or coarse stone with your hard or fine stone, because it's a little bit harder to tell between the two. Now that Smith's pocket stone does come with a pouch. It is a bit flimsy, but it will do. And when you're done, you know, whatever stones that are going in your emergency bag can go in this little Ziploc bag with your sharpening stones. These, you don't have to soak them in water for 10 minutes. You just get the surface wet, and there you go. Last thing I want to remind you, because I've said it before, you cannot drink flood water. That also means if you're going to use your knife to cut open something you eat out of, like an MRE, a bag of food, whatever, that means you can't use flood water on your sharpening stone. You have to use a water ration. Mayday makes a 5-year stable pouch. You know, you can order a case of those if you really want to have water rations in your go bag. And I recommend that if you're in a flood prone area, definitely, because like you could be stuck on a roof for like 2 days. So like, share, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments, and have a great day.